let's go out to Vegas. Let's do it. We've got a quarterback change in week number 3, not due to injury, just because of god awful play with the Carolina Panthers. And when the expectation was that Bryce Young was going to be under center at the Raiders, it was 7. Vegas -7. Let's take him in Survivor. I was thinking about taking Vegas in Survivor in this spot. It'd probably be the only time you would do that all year, but nope. He's out. Andy Dalton's in. Total stays the same, sitting at that rock solid key number of 40, but that number did come down to 5. Raiders, a 5-point favorite after going to the East Coast and shocking everybody and taking down the Ravens. Now they fly across the country, they come back home, and they are heavy favorites against Carolina. Give that number, because I saw somebody else mention the exact same thing that you were talking about yesterday with ticket count and money. That's certainly making the rounds, and it's not one sports book, it's a couple of sports books involving this game.
Well, it was mostly that the bigger bets are on Carolina and the public bets, the $20, the $50 bets are on Vegas. And again, I don't think bet splits from most sports books are that important. But when you talk about a Vegas book that takes hundreds of thousands of dollars on a game, it's a little bit different of a conversation. And a lot of these books across this country, let's be real, they don't take sharp action. I mean, you can't go to book A or book B and bet $5,000, especially if you win. That's the reality. I mean, that's not a lie. But like, you go to Vegas, you can bet if you win, you could bet 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Big bets all on Carolina, which I know people don't want to hear. They don't want to bet Carolina, and I understand. I'm not saying bet Carolina. I'm just saying this is a spot that historically, if we've learned anything over the years betting the NFL, when you go from a quarterback that doesn't perform and people don't like to a veteran with a steady hand, there's a push in the locker room. There just is. Now, does it last all season? Probably not. Does it last for 60 minutes? I think so. And that book that I'm talking about is down to 4.5 on Vegas. Vegas -4.5. Now, BetMGM, you can get a 5. It's 5 basically everywhere. But there is a lot of support for Carolina making the quarterback change from Bryce Young to Andy Dalton. Dalton's a bigger quarterback. He's a more accurate quarterback. He's not going to be flummoxed by pressure or noise. He's not a kid like Bryce Young. So in terms of staying calm and collected, you're going to get that from Andy Dalton. Now, look, all of that doesn't mean Carolina is going to cover, but I think organically it puts the team in a better spot. More relaxation, more rhythm, more calmness. That's what this whole organization needs. They don't need chaos and panic and young quarterback play. They need stability, and maybe Andy Dalton helps them. More importantly, though, this is a Raiders team. At the end of the day, for me, this is a Raiders team that should not be laying 5 points to anybody in the National Football League.
Right.
Just shouldn't happen. I mean, they're not that good. They're not that good to be laying 5. Can they win by 7? Of course. But if this game is played 100 times, I think Carolina is going to cover 5 about 60% of the time. And that's basically what you do. This is a game of probability. Anybody that tells you the game is a lock or 95% win rate, they're lying. It's just not true. You play the percentages and the probabilities. And the fact is, you have a Raiders team that was a 10-point dog middle of the week last week against Baltimore, and nobody wanted to bet them. They closed about 8.5, 9, beat Baltimore, a AFC contender, and now it's, got to bet Vegas. Okay, good luck.
And the action that we're seeing, Dave Mason put this out, and he's a guy over at a big offshore sports book. He put it out on X. The spread with the highest bet count, Raiders. Any game. Highest bet count is on the Raiders. The spread with the most money, Panthers.
Yep.
So the highest bet count and the most money is on the same game, but they're on different sides. It's the definition of what the old school used to be, squares versus sharps. Like that's what's happening in this game. And sometimes the sharps are wrong. The squares are right, but we do know the number has been coming down. So respected money is more so on Carolina in this game. for 1 week. Can they rally around him? Yeah. A professional quarterback. That's what they're expecting. And the Raiders are coming down a little bit after that just high of a win. Like, they're not practicing most of their guys this week. You give them full credit. I will say something else that stands out, though, is Brock Bowers. I mean, this guy, typically it takes a year or two for tight ends to make an impact. Recent seasons, we're seeing guys get acclimated to the offenses quicker. But, man, his number's still pretty low. It's 4.5 receptions, 44.5 receiving yards. What if they're playing from behind, too? I mean, Bowers so far, he has 15 receptions on 17 targets. Okay, so he has not gotten into the end zone yet. But I was interested by the props number. But Panthers Panthers, it's disgusting. And I thought that was a good point that you brought up yesterday on the show. It's like, what? Look, we're not scarred by Carolina. We have not been betting Carolina like many people have been that are in this side of the industry. But maybe this is the spot. It certainly seems like they're at least going to hang around.
It's funny you bring that up because I can make a college comparison to the Carolina side. I haven't picked Carolina on one platform yet. I haven't picked them at all this season yet. So I can see the ball clearly with Carolina and realize, like, hey, I should probably bet Carolina this week, or Carolina might be a decent pick this week. I feel you, though, if you've bet Carolina week 1 and 2, because that's where I'm at with Michigan in college. I just can't. Yep. I can't do it. They probably cover. They might even win. I don't care. I am mentally ruined on Michigan. So I don't want to do it. I had them against Texas. They lost. I had them against Arkansas State. They're up 28-3 and don't cover 22-23. I cannot do it for multiple reasons. Mostly because I don't want to be the guy on our show that gives out Michigan 3 straight weeks and loses. It's not worth it to me. But that's probably how some people view Carolina, because they bet them either in week 1 or in week 2 or both and can't go back. And that I understand.
Whew. By the way, speaking of the college front, over at BetMGM, they're saying the most bet college team is, any guesses?
Tennessee.
You got that right.
Duh.
Yes, Tennessee. Yeah. Tennessee minus 7.
I had a guy last night on my podcast.
So it's come down. And it's the most bet. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a guy on the podcast last night who said, I make the true number in one of my models, Tennessee minus 30. And I go, that's definitely not right.
Wait, a guest or a commenter?
A guest. Well, he makes 3 different sets of numbers. His true number is 8. Another model is 10. And his, like, I forget how he said it, but like his, I don't remember the terminology he used, but his one-way model, like his weighted model, there you go. His weighted model has Tennessee minus 30. And I jumped right back in and I said, that's not right. It's just not, but that's, it's a free space for a lot of people. And you're seeing that number come off 7, by the way, 6.5, Oklahoma right now at a couple shops.
It's a show play on the Daily Tip. I heard them this morning. They're all in on Tennessee. Everybody's in on Tennessee.
Tennessee's very good, Joe. Very good football team.
Yeah.
But first road test for this kid, Nico. I mean, if I hear one more person tell me that Josh Heupel played at Oklahoma and was fired at Oklahoma, I might go money line. And it will lose, but I just have to do what I have to do. I do
turn
love
on game
the 7.
Day. Turn on game day.
What do you think when they show those guys at the desk? Wait, hold on, better question. Who does Saban like in the game?
Oppo. Yeah, we're going the other way. That's it. All right. If you truly mean what you just said there, you will be making a money line play. By just throwing that out there, if I hear it one more time, you're gonna hear it one more time. There's no question about it.
You should have just said it. You can say it, and then I'll just bet it.
I don't even have to because I know it's gonna happen. Miami at Seattle. No Tua. They're forced to go to Skylar Thompson, and injury information. Mostert was limited. Of course, he did not play last week. It was Achane all by himself. He was getting the heavy workload, all the touches in that game. He had 29 against Buffalo, even though Miami wasn't really in that game. Teron Armstead, he was limited. So he's dealing with a shoulder and a knee. The Seahawks injury report, slightly better than Wednesday, but still some critical info. Now, DK Metcalf practiced in full, so he's going to be good to go. He's dealing with a hand. Kenneth Walker did not practice again on Thursday. George Fant, the right tackle, he was limited. The three linebackers, Nwosu did not participate. Mafe, Baker, both limited, maybe a cluster injury situation. We saw what Hunter Henry did against those beat-up linebackers last week. Due to the Tua situation, the Seahawks are a 4.5-point home favorite. That numbers come down a tad, not around any key numbers or anything. It just went from 5 down to 4.5. So the big adjustment from Tua to Skylar Thompson, people trying to figure out with extra time to prepare, is this an over adjustment or just about right with Miami, Seattle?
So I've been saving this for about 20 hours now because I got the text right when we got off our show. My buddy who's 9-1 in the contest and plays nothing but dogs, guess who made his list this week?
Dolphins.
You were talking about it. You were talking about it. I believe it was yesterday, and you said, I like Miami. And this comes from a guy, Joe O. Joe O, Mr. Seattle Seahawks coming into the season, ahead of the market on that, says, you know what? This number's too high. And I like him at +5. And now it's 4.5. But our dog guy in Vegas, Dolphins are one of his 5.
Whoo, I like it. I like it. Seahawks coming off an overtime game. That's not easy to do. We saw it with New England last night. I don't know if that had anything to do with their performance. The Seahawks are beat up everywhere. Offensive line, backfield, linebackers, laying too many. And Mostert might be making his return. I just look at McDaniel, and against those linebackers, he's like, all right, how are we gonna get Tyreek free? All right, Skylar, you just got to get him the ball. That's it. And he's gonna go on that surface. And I expect that's how this game ends up going. They're going to hang around, think they're live in this game. I know it's hard to do with Skylar Thompson. I know. Didn't we have this exact conversation 1 week ago? And that was with LaFleur, an offensive mind that we trust. This is with McDaniel, an offensive mind that we trust. That's part of the handicap for me too.
I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to take a team that was probably favored before the injury and now take him as a dog with a quarterback who will likely just get the ball to the skill guys, simple throws, don't do too much, run the ball, lose by 3. Lose by 3, you're home.
Yep, no doubt about it. Let's hit on Baltimore-Dallas quickly. The favorite has flipped in this game. It is Baltimore, a 1-point favorite. It's a higher total of 48. You doing anything with Ravens-Cowboys?
Yep, I'm on Baltimore -1. I wrote about this for Fox, foxsports.com/odds if you want to read the story. Kenny was talking about just how much he respects Baltimore, Kenny White, who I talked to for the story, and he still has Baltimore as the 5th best team in his system. That's saying something. They're 0-2, Joe, and he still thinks they're the 5th best team in the NFL, playing really fast. Lamar's got to be better, but John Harbaugh, I said this earlier in the week on the show, 31-15 last 46 games ATS on the road. 31-15. I hate most trends. That's a trend that is worth paying attention to. They win on the road. They cover on the road.
Know who else? Know what other spots they win in against NFC teams? Was Lamar like 20-1 or something like that against the NFC? Desperate spot. So I expect Lamar to run. Man, did they boost the rushing yards. It's 53.5. He barely ran last week, and now we're at 53.5. The rushing attempts still at 8.5, but that's juiced up. So it's tough to get there with the rushing attempts. But I'm with you. I am also on the Ravens in this desperate 0-2 spot. Oh, they're going to be killing the Cowboys down in the Big D if they lose this one. They lose another one at home where they have not played well of late. It's an interesting one.